Hello and welcome to the dungeon. I'm your host Rob. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at a fighter wizard multi-class idea. But unlike most fighter wizards, which tend to be like spell swords or maybe spell bows, a little less common, this one's just going to be mostly a caster. And the main thing I'm looking to grab is action surge. The idea is that we're going to be able to pull off some cool combos by ourselves, hopefully, using action surge. Now, I do want to caution you that this kind of thing could get kind of old if you're constantly stealing the show from all the rest of your party and you're setting up, you're basically acting like you don't need a group and you're just trying to hog the limelight. That's not what we're trying to do here. But I am trying to come up with some cool, creative combos and ideas. And by the way, everything you do here as a combo that I'm going to suggest, you could just do normally with allies who are, able or willing, right? But we're going to be specifically looking at wizards, so, unless you have two wizards in the party, I think this is a cool idea. Also, again, just as a, preamble here, I'm not saying that gishes and spell swords and stuff aren't awesome, but I've already done a ton of videos on those type of builds. They're also, very easy to find other people who've done those type of videos before. It's a pretty common idea, and, obviously, like blade singers and evokers and abjurers and war wizards, they can all fit well into those types of roles, where you're, running into battle with decent armor and smacking people with a weapon and using your spells to augment your fighting powers. And, that's fine. That's just not what this build is going to be. This build is going to be a caster who just takes advantage of some of the fighter perks. We're going to be using action surge so we can cast 2 leveled spells in the same round. And we're going to be doing stuff like, grabbing some better armor options from fighter. Fighter's also going to give us constitution saving throw proficiency and thus concentration saving throws proficiency, which is a nice thing. A bonus action heal is never a bad thing. A fighting style, I'm probably just going to recommend defensive, because we're not looking to use, we're not using archery or duelist or, anything like that, obviously, right? But just the less we get hit, the fewer concentration saving throws we have to make. So, that's not bad. And then we're also going to have spells like shield to help augment our defenses even further. So even if you could be wearing plate mail if you want, although that is a decent strength investment, so maybe you don't want to. But even just medium armor with a shield and the defensive fighting style, and then stacking the shield spell on top of all that, means you're going to be very tanky and not easy to hit. So this is going to be my recommendation. We're going to start with fighter, so we get the con saves and the armor and all that. Then, because I want 3rd level spells as quickly as possible, we're going to go straight from there to wizard level 5. And the reason I say 3rd level spells is because the jump in power from 2nd to 3rd level spells is really pronounced. Things like counterspell, haste and slow, fly, fireball, hypnotic pattern, there's just so many good 3rd level spells. And that's not to say that, web and stuff at lower level, not to say that those aren't also great. Just saying that, you got some really nice ones here at 3rd level, and that's when wizards really start to shine, I find. So one thing that's going to be very useful is going to be like some sort of movement restraining spell, especially if it does not use concentration, and then persistent damage that does. Or potentially the other way around, right? Where we go with something like, say, a web spell that will use concentration, but then we hit people with instant damage spells that are caught in the web and thus have a hard time avoiding him, One of my favorite combinations is one of the ones we're going to start with right off the bat, and that is Ice Storm plus Storm Sphere. Partly because they both have Storm, and I kind of like the thematic idea there. But Ice Storm does some damage up front. It also creates difficult terrain, but the difficult terrain only lasts until the end of our following turn, right? And usually, you hit somebody with an Ice Storm one round, then the next round they can pretty much move out by then, and, it's kind of done its thing, right? But if we can action surge and hit them up with a follow-up spell that does persistent damage, especially, then there's a decent chance they might take the damage again next round as well. This round plus next round. It's even better if we have allies with push or pull abilities like Repelling Blast or the Telekinetic Feat, for example, and then they can maybe help us. And or we could take the Telekinetic Feat, also an option there. And then, we can like try to push guys back into these types of persistent damage areas. So, like I said, that's a good one. But obviously, like Sickening Radiance is a great choice. Again, just the idea that we're going to try to like slow somebody and try to restrain them in an area and then hit them with that spell, and they're just going to be getting damaged and taking exhaustion levels every single round, right? Obviously, an even improved version of this is with Force Cage, because Force Cage does not require concentration. And then we just lock them in the Force Cage, and now they're just getting exhausted or taking damage or both every single round. Unfortunately, though, that one's a more high-level combination because Force Cage is a 7th level spell. And with the 2 fighter levels, you're really looking at like 15th level before you could pull this off. And that is pretty late in the game. So, great combo, but you might not even get that far. However, if you do, your friends will be talking about it for a long time. So, bear that in mind as well. No one's going to care that you fireballed a bunch of goblins for the 100th time and killed most of them with a single spell. But they'll always remember when you like locked a dragon in a Force Cage with Sickening Radiance and killed the thing. That is epic. Anyways, so Restraint plus Persistent Damage. Great combo. Another one that I never thought of myself, I actually saw this on a message board. I don't know how practical it is, but it was the combination of Bestow Curse plus Bigby's Hand. Now, the problem with this one, you might be thinking already, is doesn't Bestow Curse and Bigby's Hand both use concentration? Yes, they do. However, if you upcast Bestow Curse using a 5th level spell slot or higher, it no longer requires concentration. And one of the effects of Bestow Curse is to give people disadvantage on all their ability checks. And then with Bigby's Grasping Hand, I believe it's Grasping. I should have written that one down. Maybe it's Clenching. I don't know. Whichever one restrains and does damage as your bonus action every turn. The point is you grapple them with the hand. And now they have disadvantage to escape the grapple because they're cursed. And then they're taking damage every turn. And they're also having to sacrifice their action to try to escape the grapple. So, it's kind of a nice combo. However, those are some pretty high level spell slots. And it's really all for one target. So, it is more of a high commitment, and I'm not sure that the reward is necessarily worth it. But like I said, I saw it, I thought that was a cool idea, so I wrote it down. I already mentioned Storm Sphere. Slow plus Fireball, or in fact, any sort of instant AoE damage allowing a dex save. One of the advantages of slow is that the target not only loses 2 armor class, but it also gets a -2 on all their dexterity saving throws. So if you slow all the enemies and then you fireball them, they're just more likely to fail that dex save. And then even the ones that live will still be slowed, which is pretty nice. On the other hand, I don't know that it's better than just Fireball, Action Surge, Fireball, but it could be, especially if you're fighting like some, more mid-level targets and you're like, I don't know if they're going to die from a Fireball or not, but either way, they'll still be slowed and I can do some damage. It's not the worst idea ever. More of a defensive combination, as well as just, mobility, I guess, is the Blink and Haste combo, which I do kind of like. Haste is already great for getting around, doubles your movement speed, gives you more armor class, etc. And then Blink just allows you to like kind of mini teleport, and there's like a 50% chance that you might be in this realm or a 50% chance you won't, which makes it really hard for people to hit you. It also gives you some weird movement effects, because if you like land in a space occupied by somebody else, you just move to the next available space, which could potentially give you even more movement. And one thing about haste is that it could give you, you might have to give up opportunity attacks sometimes. But it is kind of a cool idea, and it was one I saw listed, so I thought, I might as well make mention of it. Oh, that was one thing too. I couldn't really find any videos really talking about like action surge combos, right? I saw a couple here and there on Reddit that people had listed. Half of them were incorrect because they all required concentration. I'm like, okay, well, you're not concentrating on 2 spells at once, so how are you doing that? Especially when you're looking at action surge. It's different if you're working with an ally, right? But when you're doing it yourself, not so much. But anyways, the last one though, and my favorite, is Prismatic Wall plus Reverse Gravity. Now obviously, Prismatic Wall being a 9th level spell, and you having a couple levels of fighter on top of all that, means that this isn't going to be castable until like at least 19th level. So more of a, ideal endgame situation. However, I did see somebody use this once, and I still remember it decades later because it was so awesome. And one thing I love about Prismatic Wall is that, like, the amount of status effects that it can inflict and damage and everything else, that, it is just an awesome spell. But imagine throwing people through the wall over and over again on subsequent turns, because it's actually Reverse Gravity that requires concentration in this mix, not the Prismatic Wall, which does not use concentration. And even things with legendary saves could still have a pretty rough time of it, just because Prismatic Wall requires so many saving throws, and some of the effects are like just so debilitating, right? So, even against those kind of situations, Prismatic Wall still ends up being pretty good. And, once they've burnt through all their saves by going through the wall over and over again, they're probably going to be dead or petrified or banished or whatever else, And like I said, it's the kind of thing that 5 years from now, you and your friends could still be like, man, remember when you killed, whatever it was, ancient dragon using a reverse gravity and a prismatic wall? That was freaking awesome. Because it is. Anyways, those were all the ideas that I'd been able to think of, and the ones I saw listed, which was only like three different ideas, unfortunately. But I'm sure there are many others that I haven't thought of, especially because we're only looking at wizards in this video. But, like clerics and druids and warlocks all have great spell lists as well, and I'm sure they could do some cool stuff with action surge as well. And obviously like some of the half casters could potentially as well, but mostly we're looking at like the main spell casters here. Anyways, that's everything I have for this video. Feel free to like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, but most importantly, leave me your comments in the comment section. I would love to see other people's spell ideas of like different combinations, even if it's not wizard, right? Like different, druid or whatever else, cleric, whatever, right? And different combinations you could pull off like this. Like I said, though, I do want to say that I think this type of playstyle, it can be very easy to like overshadow your teammates, and I think it's really important that you don't do that. So I think you should, use these kind of ideas for special occasions. It's like when I was a little boy, my mom would break out the fine silverware. You knew it was something special. You don't do it every night. You don't do it constantly every time. Save it for something special, and don't hog all the glory. But on the other hand, also leave your friends something that they can still be talking about. That's the fine line we're trying to walk here, Like I've always said, no one remembers killing their 100th goblin, but you'll always remember when you, killed a million things with prismatic wall and reverse gravity, because that's awesome. Anyways, that's everything. Thanks for watching. Bye.